Hello and welcome to another video. I have a lot of books behind me. I literally have so many books. We're going to talk about my TBR from September, which books I did and didn't read, every book I read in September. We're also going to talk about the books I want to read in October. I have started putting all of my ratings and the books I've read or DNF'd on Goodreads. So I will pop a link to my Goodreads below if you'd like to follow me. I am enjoying Goodreads at the moment. It's an app with so much potential. It's just a terrible app, in my opinion. Let's start with all the books I read in the month of September. The first book I read on my Kindle. However, I enjoyed it so much I bought the physical copy, and that is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is the first Lynn Painter book I have ever read. I read it firstly on my Kindle because it's a YA romance, and I haven't read many YA romance books that I have really enjoyed. They have felt very meh or just not for me. However, I read this and I loved it. I loved every minute of this book, and the physical copy is so nice. I don't know how to explain what a nice physical copy is, but it's beautiful, it's lovely to hold, it's not overly floppy but a decent amount. I just think it's perfect. I don't know how to explain a perfect physical book, but this is pretty much it. So this is about a girl called Liz and her next door neighbour Wes. They make a deal where he can have a parking spot that they argue over in order for him to help her get the boy she likes. There's a bit of fake dating, there's a bit of enemies to friends to lovers, there are lots of movie quotes, there's a bit about grief in here. Her mum has passed away in this book. There's a lot of like family issues addressed in this book around her stepmom, issues with like going to prom, coming of age, that type of thing. It is so good. I gave this 5 stars. I do recommend this book. Next up, I read Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score, and this is the first book in the Knockmount series. This is following Naomi and Knox. Naomi is a runaway bride. She is gone to this small town to help her twin sister who is in trouble, and her twin ends up stealing her car and her a few of her things and abandons Naomi with a niece she didn't know she had. Knox is very grumpy, and he's like he owns a bar and a barber shop, and he's bearded, tattooed, rugged. He'd won the lottery, so he's got quite a bit of money as well as his businesses, and their relationship together is very amusing because he really wants to help her, yet he's very miserable about it. It's a very, very good book. This is the first in the series. Like I said, I gave this one 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. So I started the month strong with 2 5-star books. I think I'm missing a book. I am. So I also read on my Kindle Never Lie by Frida McFadden. That book I did try to order the physical copy because it's another 5-star book. However, it was out of stock, and the only place I could find it, it was like $16.99, and I know like that sounds very like, I don't know, that doesn't sound great of me to say. I'm not buying it because of the price of it, but that's why I'm not buying it at the moment. I'm going to wait to find a cheaper copy. However, I do love that book. I want it on my bookshelf. Never Lie is a thriller. It's about a couple that go to view a house. The house was previously owned by a therapist that has been missing for several years, and they get snowed into this house. A few creepy things happen. The main female character ends up finding a secret room with tapes of sessions this therapist has, and you get to kind of piece together what happened. Really, really good book. Really enjoyed it. Again, like I said, 3 of the first books I read in the month of September, I gave a 5-star. And it sounds like I'm dishing out 5 stars, but I can't help but reading really good books sometimes. Next up, I read As Good as Dead. And I believe, yeah, this is the final book in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. These books are about to become a BBC TV series, which I am super excited for. These books, they're YA thrillers and they are fantastic. Now, to me, it's not quite a 5-star. I feel like the first one's like 4.5. This, again, is close. I'd say maybe a 4.25. There were times when I was a bit like, not interested, but very, very good. This one was the most tense out of all of them. It's the biggest one. There's a lot of pages in this one. It's bigger than the first 2. I did really enjoy the second book, but not as much. I feel like the first one is like 4.5. The next one was 4-star. This is probably a 4.25. I loved them. Really good books. You're following Pip as the main character. In the first book, she is looking into a so-called murder that happened, even though they never found the body, of this girl called Andy Bell that went to the same school as her. It's a closed case because they believe the person that killed her committed suicide. She looks into this for a school project and she unveils what actually happened. And then the next 2 books follow Pip in her journey. There's some things linked to the first book and it all follows along separate cases as well. Very good book series. Also recommend. Next up, I read The Dead Romantics on my Kindle by Ashley Poston, and all I knew was this was kind of like a ghost romance book, and that made me cringe a little bit, but I've read it anyway. That's all I knew going into it, and it does sound a bit bizarre. The book was good, just not for me. I'm not into like these books where people can see the dead and things like that, so I don't really know why I thought to pick it up. I just think so many people recommended it and so many good reviews. I was like, maybe I should give it a try. It was good, just not great. I gave it a 3-star. I think I gave it a 3-star because I would recommend it because it's well written, the characters are likeable, it is a good story, there's a lot of grief around it, which should be expected. It's a book surrounded by someone that can see the dead. She does lose her father in this book, so, oh my god. A bird just perched on the window outside and looked in and I jumped a mile. Anyway, back to it. So, my heart is beating really fast now. Yeah, it's not going to be for everyone, but it is a good book, which is why I gave it 3-star. Personally, I didn't love it. Like, for me, like, maybe it's like a 2.5, 2.75. I do kind of want to recommend it because it's well written. The writing is very good, but it's just not for me. Next up, I read Yellowface. This is by Rebecca K. Kang? I'm not sure how to say her name, so I do apologise. This was interesting. So this follows a very, I just think she's a very unlikable main character. She is acquaintances with another writer. They're both writers. Our main character, June. Yes, June is an unsuccessful writer. Athena is her acquaintance, friend, and she is a very successful writer. Athena has got best-selling books. She's now been, I think a film was made of one of her books at one point. Anyway, right at the beginning of this book, they're hanging out and Athena suddenly dies. So June decides to grab a first draft of a book Athena has started to write and she publishes it as her own work. And there is a lot of I don't know how to say how much happens from there. I think you'd have to read it from there. I think that's all that is kind of on the back. That's all you kind of want to know. But you kind of want to feel sorry for June, but it's kind of hard to at the same time. It's a difficult one. I started off enjoying this book, and then I was a bit unsure whether I liked it that much. I'm very stuck on what to rate it because it is a good book. Again, it's just another one that isn't for me. So I think on Goodreads, I gave it a 3.5. I think it is just a 3-star. The book itself is good. I think, no, 3.5 is fair for it because it is a very good book. And like the things that happen, and like she gets accused of things and she has to prove her innocence and she has to write a follow-up book, and the things that happen, it is interesting. And you also do get insights to what the publishing industry is like. I just think I find it hard because no one was likable. I didn't like any of the characters, and part of me was a bit like done with the woe is me kind of vibe I was getting from it. But that's Yellowface. And then I read Ghosted. This is a new absolute favourite. I did not expect to love this book as much as I did. So this is Ghosted, a second chance romance novel by J.M. Darhower. Oh, just surnames get me, honestly. So this is a dual POV. You get the two main characters' perspectives, Kennedy and Jonathan. So they grew up together. You get snippets of their past as well as how they're like now. Kennedy is, well, they're both parents to a daughter that he has never met. So I believe she like 5 years old. 5-year-old daughter, yes. So the daughter's 5 and she's never met her father. Her father is an actor, a very famous actor, and he plays a character that the daughter absolutely loves. So you've got this daughter admiring this actor and his movies without knowing that that's her father. And it's about them coming together and introducing her to her dad, the parents trying to get on again, and their story from how they got together, how he got famous. The mother is working in a supermarket and struggling, and I don't know what it is about this book that I just absolutely loved it. It was just so good. It was so well written. I loved the characters. And it was just fantastic. And it's not the type of book that I thought I would love this much, but I could give this 6 stars. Loved it. New favourite. Next up, I read The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han, and this is now a TV series. There's 2 series, and so far as we sit now, I've read both the first 2 books. There's 3 books in total, but the second book I read this month, October, so that's not in this wrap up. This is the first book, and this follows Belly as the main character. Every summer she goes to cousins to spend time with, it's the 2 mums are best friends. So you've got Laurel and Beck, they're best friends, and they bring their kids to this summer house in cousins every year. So Belly and Simon are Laurel's kids, and then the other 2 boys, Conrad and Jeremy, are Beck or Susanna's kids. And they go every summer, and it's about a coming of age kind of story. How Belly has always been in love with Conrad, however there is different things that happen throughout the story. She gets her first boyfriend, so there's a bit of romance in there. It's summer vibes. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I really did like the first book. There is a little, it's very emotional and sad towards the end. That's all I'll say. 4 stars. Do recommend. Okay, we've got 2 books left. How many books did I read this month? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I read 10 books this month. that is pretty dang good. So the next book I read is Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score, the second book in the Knock 'Em Out series. So this follows Nash, who is Knox's brother from the first one, and Lena, who is Knox's like friend. So you've got his friend and brother kind of get together. That is the story of this book. Nash is a police officer, and Lena is investigating something that links to a shooting that happened, and it was Nash, the main character, that was shot. There is quite a bit of drama in these books. I love every single one of them. I don't want to say too much about what happens in each one. I will just kind of give you a little bit of like, you know, what happens on the back, or like the synopsis. So Lena moves in next door to Nash. Nash is really struggling emotionally, physically. Lena helps him, which leads to other things. Lena's the bad girl in this scenario, and Nash is kind of the loved cop, but turned a bit sour since being shot, and he is struggling with day-to-day life. I love this book. I gave, spoiler alert, so far, there's only been 2, I'm on the 3rd book. Spoiler alert, so far I've given every book in this series 5-star. This book isn't loved as much as the first one. Nearly every review is like, oh, it's not as good, don't like the cop story. I loved it. 5-star for this one as well. I read some fantastic books this month, or the month of September. The last book I read in the month of September was Idol by Louise O'Neill. This one I struggled with. Because it's about an influencer, I thought she was going to be a lot younger, but the main character Samantha has got to her like 40s now, and she's had fans from kind of all over the world. She's influencer, she's published books, I can't remember what else she's done, but she's supposed to be like a guru, like, you know, all positive vibes, happiness, blah blah blah. And she writes this essay about a sexual encounter that happened with her best friend in high school, or, you know, it's about, I think they were about 17, 18 years old maybe, and she writes an essay about it without saying her name. However, they haven't spoken in years. They kind of broke off contact with each other, and then the manager, Samantha's manager, gets an email saying that the essay is wrong and the events that took place were non-consensual. So Samantha goes back to her hometown to confront her friend, to confront everything that happened, and it's a bit like you don't know who's telling the truth. You don't know who to believe. You don't know what's real. You don't know what's not. There are some flashbacks. It is good. It's just not kind of what I expected. I think I landed on like a 3.5 for this book. Also, there's water on the front, right? I took this on holiday thinking this was going to be a summer read, and it's snowing through this book. It takes place in winter. So I took this on holiday like, oh, summer vibes. It's snowing in this book. So those are the 10 books I read in the month of September. Now, let's address which ones were on my TBR. Better Than the Movies was on my TBR. The 2 Knock 'Em Out books were on my TBR. The last book for the Good Girl's Guide to Murder was also on my TBR. I had 8 books on my TBR, and these are the other 4 I didn't get to. So we've got Imogen, obviously, and that's by Becky Albertalli. And then we've got Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney, Red Rising by Pierce Brown, and Burn Our Bodies Down by Rory Power. So these are the 4 books I didn't get to. So I read 10 books in total. I had 8 on my TBR, and yet I only read 4 of the 8 that were on my TBR. So we might get to these books sometime soon. However, I've got other books that are my priority for the month of October. I have already finished 2 books in this month. So we're not going to include them because I'm filming this a bit late. So I read 2 books and I'm partway through 2 books as well. So the final book in the Knock 'Em Out series following Lucian and Sloane, and this is Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. I'm about halfway through, and then we have A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, and I'm 100 pages through this one. So these are on the TBR and we know that they're going to get read because I'm already partway through them. I have another 3 books that I want to read this month. So that would be, if I get through those 2 books, that would be 4 so far. And then I've got these 3 here. So that would be like 7 books that I would have read. However, I don't want to kind of try and plan it too much, because if I fancy reading something else, it's going to switch it up anyway. I love setting a TBR, but I don't know if I can like stick to it. I am desperate to get to this book, Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Now this book is following a girl without powers. However, she is looking to enter a competition of people with powers. The love interest is someone that I believe he kills people without powers. I haven't read too much of the back or too much into this. Whenever anyone talks about it online, I skip over it just because I've heard great things and I just want to get to it so bad. So I'm itching to read this book. The next one I want to get to is Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and this is by Gabriel Zevin. And again, this is one I've heard so many great things about. I know it's got, like, I believe there's a game or gaming involved. I'm not 100% sure, but the hardback copy was out for so long and now they've just put the paperback copy out, and I love this edition so much more. I'm so glad I've got the paperback. These 2 books I am desperate to get to this month, so I think they will be my next reads. And then I also would like to read Fourth Wing this month, and this book is huge. So I don't know if I'll get through this. This is by Rebecca Yarros, and again, I've heard wonderful things, and I think I'm just in the mood for a bit of fantasy. There's dragons involved, and I know the second book will be out fairly soon. So these are my TBR books for the month of October. So these are the main 3 that I haven't started that I want to read in this month. So I believe that is my bookish update. The stats are 10 books I read in the month of September. 4 of them were on my TBR. 4 of them were 5-star books. The lowest rating book I had was 3.5, so I'd say that, oh no, no, because the Dead Romantics I'd probably give like 2.5, so 3-ish stars was the lowest rating. I had a couple of 3.5 books, a couple of 4-star books. However, it was a fantastic reading month for me, and I've started off quite well this month as well. No 5 stars yet, but I've only finished 2 books. Stay tuned for next month's wrap up and we'll see how many books I get through in the month of October. I'm loving reading at the moment. I am loving creating these videos. The thing is, I always think I'm going to film a video on this day, and it gets to that day and I'm like, oh, I really don't want to film. And it's like, I don't know why, because while I'm actually filming, I'm enjoying myself. I love talking about books. I love reading books. I enjoy talking to, like, I was going to say you guys, I'm talking to a camera, but whoever watches my videos, I am really grateful. I am. And I hope you have a super duper good one. Let me know the books you've read, the books you've loved, enjoyed, if you've read any of these books. And I will catch you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.